Welcome back once again to our deep dive. Today, we'll be talking about Moderna, a stock which is, maybe too cheap to ignore. They're a biotech company focused on mRNA therapeutics and vaccines, and their stock price has been, well, kind of on a wild ride lately.
Yeah, it really has. It's true. There's this really fascinating contrast with Moderna right now. On the one hand, they've taken a bit of a hit recently, but on the other hand, analysts are still saying there's potential for growth. So that kind of begs the question: is this a chance for savvy investors to get in on the ground floor?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to find out.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
going to dive deep into their financials, the latest news, what the experts are predicting, all to see if the stock really is too cheap to ignore.
All right, so for those who need a refresher, can you give us a little background on Moderna? What exactly do they do?
Sure. So Moderna is actually relatively young for a biotech company. They were founded in 2010, and their headquarters are in Cambridge, Massachusetts. What they're known for is their work with mRNA, which stands for messenger RNA.
Right, mRNA. It's been in the news a lot lately, especially with COVID vaccines.
Exactly. But Moderna is looking beyond just vaccines. They're developing a whole range of mRNA therapeutics. Think infectious diseases, cancer treatments,
Mhm.
even therapies for rare diseases.
Wow.
They've also teamed up with some big names in the industry, like AstraZeneca and Merck& and
Oh,
Co.
wow.
These collaborations really show they're a serious player in this field, and leading the charge is CEO Stefan Bancel, along with President Dr. Stephen Ho. They're the brains behind Moderna's ambitious plans.
Ambitious is right. But their stock price tells a different story, right? It's been kind of a roller coaster.
It has, and that's what makes this whole situation so intriguing. Let's start by looking at their market cap, which is basically the total value of all their shares. In 2021, it was over $102 billion. That's a lot of billions.
Yeah.
But by 2023, it had dropped to just under $16 billion.
Wow, that's a huge difference. So what happened?
Well, it's not necessarily a sign of trouble within the company itself. It just shows how the market is valuing Moderna at this particular moment.
Hmm.
And this is where we get to the too cheap to ignore argument.
Okay, so explain that. Why do some people think it's undervalued?
Okay, let's look at a key metric called the price to earnings ratio, or PE ratio for short. It's basically a way to compare a company's stock price to its earnings. A high PE ratio can mean a stock is overpriced, while a low one might mean it's undervalued.
So it's like figuring out if you're getting a good deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And right now, Moderna's PE ratio is 8.25. But here's the interesting part. The forward PE, which looks at predicted future earnings, is way higher at 37.04. This tells us that analysts expect Moderna's earnings to grow significantly in the future.
So even though the stock price has fallen, people think it will go back up because Moderna is going to make more money down the road.
That's the idea. Another important factor is the debt-to-equity ratio. This tells us how much a company relies on borrowed money. A low ratio means they're in a good financial position and can handle market ups and downs. And guess what? Moderna's debt-to-equity ratio is a tiny 0.11. That's incredibly healthy. They're not drowning in debt.
Okay, so that's good news. But I'm guessing there's more to the story.
There is. Let's look at Moderna's recent revenue and income. Their revenue actually grew in 2022, which is positive, but their net income has dropped. And their earnings per share, or EPS, are actually negative for 2023.
Wait, negative EPS? What does that mean?
It means they're losing money per share. This is definitely contributing to the perception that Moderna might be undervalued.
So we've got this interesting situation where Moderna has some financial challenges, but their stock price is down. And some people think it will go up in the future.
Right. To add another layer to this puzzle, there's been some big news recently that could change things for Moderna. They've just been awarded a $590 million grant to develop mRNA vaccines for pandemic influenza.
That's a huge deal, especially with all the concern about bird flu right now.
Absolutely. This grant doesn't just provide financial support, it positions Moderna as a key player in global pandemic preparedness. This is an area with a lot of potential for future revenue, which could attract investors.
So we've got these kind of mixed signals, some financial bumps in the road, but this huge grant and the potential for growth in pandemic preparedness.
Yeah.
What do the experts think will happen to Moderna's stock price?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Analysts are predicting a 12-month price target of $76.35 on average. That's an 84.38% increase from the current price.
Whoa, That's a big jump. So are they saying it's definitely going to go up that much?
Not necessarily. Remember, these are just predictions, and there's always a range. Some analysts have it as low as $38, while others go as high as $139. It really shows you how much uncertainty there is in the stock market.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so big potential gains, but also some risk involved. What's the overall feeling among the analysts? Are they mostly positive or negative about Moderna?
Right now, the average rating is hold, which basically means they're neutral. It's interesting, though. We've seen more sell ratings lately, probably because of those short-term financial concerns we talked about.
Right.
But even with those sell ratings, a lot of analysts still see long-term potential in Moderna.
Hmm. It sounds like a real balancing act, weighing the short-term worries against the possibility of big gains in the future. What about revenue and earnings? Did those forecasts give us any clues?
They do. Analysts are predicting that revenue will probably keep declining in 2024 and 2025. But here's the interesting twist. They also think Moderna will start making a profit again by 2026.
So a bit of a rough patch for the next couple of years, but then things might turn around.
That's what the forecast suggests. Of course, it's important to remember that these are just educated guesses. Nobody knows for sure what will happen in the future.
Right, right. All right, so we've talked a lot about the financial side of things, but let's zoom out a bit and talk about mRNA technology as a whole. It feels like this could be much bigger than just Moderna.
You're absolutely right. We tend to think of mRNA in terms of vaccines because of its role in fighting COVID-19, but the potential applications go way beyond that.
So it's not just about preventing diseases.
Not at all. Think of mRNA like a set of instructions that tell our cells to produce specific proteins. These proteins can then do all sorts of things in the body, from fighting off viruses to repairing damaged tissue.
Okay, that makes sense. But what are some of the challenges with mRNA technology? It sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is delivery. Figuring out how to get the mRNA to the right cells in the body safely and effectively is a complex problem.
I bet.
Scientists are exploring various methods, from using tiny fat bubbles called lipid nanoparticles to using harmless viruses as delivery vehicles. It's a fascinating area of research.
So it's not just about developing the mRNA itself. It's about finding the right packaging and delivery system.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of durability. How do we make sure the mRNA stays stable and active long enough to do its job? And of course, there are always potential side effects to consider. Even though early mRNA vaccines have shown a good safety profile, there's still a lot we're learning about this technology.
Yeah, it's still early days. It sounds like there's a lot of potential, but also some big challenges to overcome. Bring it back to Moderna. What are some of the things they're working on besides the COVID-19 vaccine and the flu vaccine we talked about?
They have a really diverse pipeline. Besides those vaccines, they're developing vaccines for other respiratory viruses like RSV, which can be really dangerous for babies and older adults, and cytomegalovirus, which can cause serious problems for people with weakened immune systems.
So a lot of focus on preventing diseases. What about treating existing conditions?
That's a big part of their research, too. They're exploring personalized cancer vaccines, which would train the body's immune system to attack specific cancer cells. They're also working on targeted therapies for certain cancer mutations, and they're even venturing into areas like rare diseases and autoimmune disorders.
Wow, it sounds like they're really trying to tackle some of the toughest challenges in medicine.
They are. One exciting partnership they have is with Vertex Pharmaceuticals. They're working together to develop mRNA therapies for cystic fibrosis, a genetic disease that affects the lungs and digestive system.
It's incredible to think about all the possibilities with this technology. But let's be realistic. Are all these projects likely to be successful?
Well, it's important to remember that drug development is a really tough business. Most promising therapies fail during clinical trials. Moderna's pipeline is full of potential, but there are no guarantees.
So we should be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Excited about what they're doing, but also aware that there are risks involved.
Exactly. Moderna's success will depend on a lot of factors, like scientific breakthroughs, navigating regulations, securing funding, and proving that their products are safe and effective.
Okay, so let's imagine for a minute that everything goes well. Moderna becomes this huge success story in mRNA therapeutics. What could that mean for the world, for healthcare as we know it?
That's a big question, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, the implications are potentially huge. Think about a future where we can prevent or effectively treat diseases that are currently devastating, tailor medicine to an individual's genetic makeup, and develop treatments that are more targeted and less toxic than traditional
It
therapies.
sounds like a future straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's also important to approach this with a sense of responsibility. Moderna's story, regardless of its ultimate outcome, shows the power of human ingenuity and the potential of science to change our world.
Yeah, it really does. It really feels like we're on the cusp of something big here. It's exciting and a little bit intimidating at the same time. But that's what makes this so fascinating, right? We're witnessing scientific progress unfold in real time.
It certainly is. And it reminds us that the most important investments aren't always just about making money, but about, contributing to a better future. And sometimes those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at Moderna's financials, their pipeline, the potential of mRNA technology, and even glimpsed into a future shaped by their work. But the question we started with remains, is Moderna stock too cheap to ignore?
Well, what are your thoughts? What stands out to you after this deep dive?
Honestly, it's a tough call. There's definitely risk involved, but also a huge potential upside. I think it comes down to individual risk tolerance and
Yeah.
investment goals. If someone's looking for a quick return, Moderna might not be the right fit right now. But for those who believe in the long-term potential of mRNA technology and see the value in what Moderna is trying to achieve, the current stock price could be, a great opportunity.
I think that's a very balanced perspective. It's all about weighing the risks and potential rewards carefully. No one has a crystal ball when it comes to investing, but what's so fascinating about Moderna is that it's not just about potential financial returns. It's about the possibility of improving human health on a global scale.
It's about more than just profits. It's about the potential to really make a difference in the world. And that's something worth paying attention to, even if you're not an investor.
Absolutely. Moderna's story is a perfect example of what's happening in the biotech industry right now. Innovation, risk, and the potential for huge societal impact are all intertwined. Science isn't just about abstract concepts, it's about finding solutions to real world problems. And that's both thrilling and transformative.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by Moderna and want to learn more, what would you suggest as a next step?
First and foremost, do your own research. Dig deeper into their financials, explore their pipeline, and read independent analyses from reputable sources. Think about your own investment goals, your risk tolerance, and whether Moderna aligns with your overall investment philosophy.
Don't just take our word for it.
Exactly. Informed decisions are always the best decisions. And remember, the world of biotech is constantly evolving. Stay curious, stay informed, and never stop learning. Who knows, maybe someday we'll look back at this conversation and say, we were there at the beginning of something truly remarkable.
Yeah. That's the beauty of exploring the cutting edge. The possibilities are endless. And that is all from us. And as always, please help to like and subscribe, as it motivates us to do more content like this.